the American people stand firm in the faith which has inspired this nation from the beginning. We believe that all men have a right to equal justice under law and equal opportunity to share in the common good. We believe that all men have the right to freedom of thought and expression. We believe that all men are created equal because they are created in the image of God. From this faith, we will not be moved.
Hello, God bless America, and welcome to the Freedom of Thought podcast. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Freedom of Thought is available on all your favorite podcasting apps, including Audacity now, apparently. But of course, the Apple, Google, and all those typical ones, and others like Spotify seems to be the featured presentation now that Freedom of Thought is on Anchor. Really appreciate Anchor for having me on board for that one. And of course, you've noticed the minor facelift on the logo, where you can actually have the name of the show on the logo now for, on the on the podcast and everything for all the different apps. Apologize that I babbled a little bit there. Going to get caught up on the election results and such. There was no red wave, which is extremely annoying and frustrating, and it does reek of cheating. It does reek of corruption. It also reeks of poor Republican leadership pretty much everywhere. Lots of rhinos, lots of bad candidates, low funding, people maybe not praying enough, people not getting out to vote, this and that. It's kind of like a whole thing, a major disappointment, to be quite honest. And of course, we're going to remember the veterans as well. It is Veterans Day. Got done doing fall cleanups earlier and had some dinner and all that. And now I really wanted to do the show today for Veterans Day, but also, again, getting caught up with the election results and such. Figured I'd let that kind of bleed out for a couple days as the BS continues and the frustration and all that. We'll look at Minnesota results right now a bit. Of course, it's just, another blue wave in Minnesota, or at least so it feels when you see the Ilhan Omars and all them winning so decisively. It's absolutely disgusting. Is it because there's a what did they say, 60,000 Somalis in Minneapolis? Does it have to be that way, that they have to automatically vote for Ilhan Omar? Because, people talk about racist. That's racist. I'm going to vote for her because she's one of me, That's kind of dumb. 75.2% over Cicely Davis, 24.8%. 70,000 votes basically to 214,000 for Ilhan Omar. I don't understand it. I don't. And it's not just because maybe she might have a huge favoritism going on with the Somalis and all that, and how so many Somalis now live in Minneapolis, like South Minneapolis and all that. In particular, but still, why? Why is it so dominant? And how many white liberals they just run to Ilhan Omar the way they do? They worship her, this and that. I don't understand it. I don't. What has Ilhan Omar done that is good for the state of Minnesota? What has she done that is good for the United States of America? I don't see it. I see literally nothing good about Ilhan Omar for the United States of America. Cicely Davis had a lot of good conservative views, a lot of good, traditional values that are just getting completely ignored. Literally, it's ridiculous how wide of a margin it is. All kinds of information over the course of multiple elections, including primaries, where she probably should have lost the primary 2 years ago to Ramon, who is another jerk, to be quite honest. He was another Trump hater and all that. Big surprise. But, he even said himself, Ilhan Omar is a divider. I'll at least try to unite people somehow, some way. Just about anybody do better than Ilhan Omar, so I thought I'd get that out there. Get emails from her all the time, not directly to me like it's a personal email. No, it's just because we're in District 5, and we got to hear from Ilhan Omar. Isn't that the most wonderful thing in the world? It's really not. I don't want to hear from Ilhan Omar. That's okay. I don't want to hear how great she is and how all the wonderful things she's doing. Yeah, wonderful things she's doing. Just great. It's really sad how there's just... I don't think Cicely Davis was a weak... I really don't think she was a weak candidate. I just think there's just not enough, man. There's just not enough support for Republicans in Minnesota and in Hennepin County, where District 5 and such. There's just not enough, and it's really sad and frustrating, to be quite honest. A number of Republicans did win, but that's more in the rural areas. Like they even say, Minnesota is basically a red state except for basically Minneapolis, St. Paul, or dare we say places like Hennepin and Ramsey County. St. Louis County is often Democrat as well, unfortunately, which is where Duluth is, and Two Harbors and such. That's kind of like the main North Shore cities, Minnesota. I don't know why those are liberal. I don't know why, but they just are. Or should we say communist or socialist, basically. It's not liberal anymore. It's communist and socialist. Angie Craig won 51% versus her opponent, Tyler Kistner, who was the main guy. Yeah, it really sucks. He went from, it was 51 for Angie Craig, 45.7 for Tyler Kistner. Brad Finstad did win for the Republicans over Jeff Ettinger, so that's good. Significant, decisive win, about a 9% victory there. No, 11%, pardon me. Angie Craig mentioned her already. Woohoo, that's great. Benny McCollum won very strongly over May Laura Young, and that's a shame. A conservative Republican Hmong, that is really impressive. I'm very sad to see her not win that election, to be quite honest. Actually, Facebook friends with May. Thank you, May, for your fight. Keep it up and come back again. If just in 1,000,000% chance she's listening, come back again. That is really nice to see, because I know so many Hmong, and they're all Democrat. Every single one of them, like they say factory workers and all that such, farmers, whatever, they're all freaking Democrats. So it's nice to see May kind of come out like that as something completely different. Tom Emmer, who ran for Republican and did pretty well not too long ago, versus Mark frickin' Dayton. Well, it's a while now, but he did pretty well. He almost beat the SOB. He's been a very dominant Minnesota District 6 member there, 62.1%, beating Janine Hendricks pretty strongly. Michelle Fischbach, nice decisive win, 67 versus 27%, very impressive there. And Pete Stauber also getting a win, the Republican. So we have some Republicans winning, but that's in the more red part of Minnesota, which is not in the, not in the not in the areas of like Minneapolis, St. Paul, and some of the other surrounding communities. But lots of red otherwise. Glad to see those people getting the job done. That's actually really cool to see. Very good chance that Nancy Pelosi will no longer be the Speaker of the House, but that it might be Kevin McCarthy, which is not necessarily much better. Just another rhino, just another Mitch McConnell. It's the McConnell-McCarthy nonsense, all the mix, basically. Not all of them, but there's three mix, basically, that we just don't want anymore. They're not conservative. They're not for the American people. They're for just big bucks. They're basically in it for the money. They're in it for themselves. They're not Republicans. They're just deep state BS with an R next to their name. So obviously you would like to see these clowns primaried out. Kevin McCarthy, yeah. I mean, again, Nancy Pelosi is about as bad as you can get as a Speaker of the House. So we're just hoping, again, that some good patriots are going to fight to get somebody else to be the Speaker of the House for the Republicans. As now there's going to be a chance. No more Nancy Pelosi. It's like, amen, hallelujah. As this continues. I'm not sure what's going on here. I thought I had this. Yeah, okay, I got to get rid of Minnesota. I already talked about Minnesota enough. Not sure why I heard a bang on the ceiling there. Senate results, GOP apparently has lost one seat. That's just great. Again, like they say, like a red drizzle. Senate majority could be heading towards the Republicans, but it's still not completely certain, unfortunately. Adam Laxalt is ahead by a very narrow margin, about 800 votes over Catherine there. Let's see the names here. Let's see if this would pile up a little better. Yeah, and of course Vegas and Reno, like the Reno has turned blue. The Reno County basically has turned blue. Catherine Cortez, oh goody, right behind Adam Laxalt. Less than 800 votes. It's unbelievable. And there's over 450 votes for Laxalt. So that's what kind of a small margin we're talking about. This is in Nevada. Really hoping that Laxalt can get the job done there. That would be nice. Most of the state is leaning red, but you got Reno and Las Vegas leaning blue. But thankfully it's a sky blue, not like a cobalt blue, as myself and Bob Bierman might say on the shows and such when we look at demographics. throughout the country. Why is it showing? I don't want Minnesota anymore. Just election results. We're done with Minnesota. Obviously, again, yes. Actually, we're not completely done with Minnesota. But yeah, it was a sweep of the three main people that I wanted to see the heck out of there. I wanted to see Tim Walz gone, and he won fairly decisively, about 9% over Dr. Scott Jensen and Lieutenant Governor Matt Burke, which would have been awesome to see. Former center for the Minnesota Vikings, a nice, strong Christian conservative. But unfortunately, Tim Walz is back in there. Supposedly, what we've, there's rumors out there. It's not confirmed, so I'm not confirming any news, but there's rumors out there that there was 150,000 vote dump to kind of get things going for Tim Walz. So interesting that may have given him an advantage to kind of push him over the top. No matter what happens, basically, you're guaranteed a Democrat governor in Minnesota. Absolutely wonderful, right? Just wonderful. Ron DeSantis won very decisively in Florida. We'll come back to that shortly. I'm going to talk about U.S. Senate a little more. Herschel Walker, that's the big one right now. Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock, it's really, really, really tight. Herschel Walker's within about 34,000 votes, and unfortunately behind. And you know how these kind of things can go. A lot of times when someone's behind this late in, it's just, no matter how much frickin' cheating there was, like Joe Biden and all that BS earlier, it's kind of like in the NBA and the NHL and the NFL. Oh, well, if there isn't any overwhelming evidence to overturn things, it's over. Like, say it's a good goal or it's a touchdown or anything. So there isn't enough evidence to overturn it. So I got a bad feeling. But this is apparently like a runoff, as they call it. So we'll have to wait and see how this turns out. Really praying to God that Herschel Walker can come out and run it into the end zone, literally, for the Republican Party. Herschel Walker, of course, former running back for Georgia, the Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, Minnesota Vikings. Those Vikings before the Eagles, wound up with the Cowboys much later. Worst trade in Vikings history because we overtraded for an older running back, which is kind of like really dumb in the NFL. But of course, the Vikings GM at the time wasn't thinking that way. He had stars in his eyes and was thinking the Vikings have a very mediocre running back, and let's get this legend in and see what happens. And yeah, unfortunately, it didn't work out. But as a Republican, as a Christian, all that, really, really would love to see Herschel Walker run it in the end zone one more time here, and maybe in a few years again when he's up for re-election, if he wins this time around. Hopefully, Herschel Walker can get it done. It would be huge, absolutely huge, for the Republican Party. As things are knotted up very, 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 very tight in a big way. It's frightening, actually, how close it all is. This is driving me nuts. It just keeps going back to where I don't want it to be. There we go. I apologize. I don't want it to stay right where it is. Yes. So, of course, let's go to the governors now that I've talked about that. Let's look at that. Well, I'm going to backtrack really quick. U.S. House GOP gained 7 seats. The Democrats lost 9. And again, this is where you could see Nancy Pelosi bid adieu finally. And good frickin' riddance. 211 for GOP, 197 for the Dem at the moment. Again, 9 seats lost by the Dems, 7 gained by the Republicans. So a little bit of a red wave in the U.S. House. Thank you, Lord, for that. 218 needed for majority. So the Republicans are very close to that magic line of 218. We're not quite there yet, as everything's messing around and taking forever, and it's really annoying. And yeah, it just reeks of dishonesty and corruption. I mean, why would Alaska? Why the heck? See, it's one thing, Hawaii. It's cobalt blue, right? Hawaii is cobalt blue, and for some reason that I do not understand, New Mexico is cobalt blue. They're right by Texas. They're right by Arizona. They're cobalt blue. What the heck, New Mexico? I don't get it. Like, Minnesota's super red, except for, basically Hennepin, Ramsey, and then this other county that's right below, a bit, little south of us. I'm not sure why. It's really dumb. Places like New York and parts of Pennsylvania and such, pretty blue. But, like, the whole damn state of New Mexico, pardon me, the whole doggone state of New Mexico is cobalt blue. But Alaska's sky blue. What's going on? What's going on, Alaska? What are you doing? Alaska? Alaska? How many times when, say, a president's up for election or whatever, the two presidents are up for election, it's like, okay, the declared winner is the Republican. Bam. It was like 5 seconds in because it's like so obvious it's red. It's a dark red for Alaska. So it's just so goofy that it's so weird to think that Alaska right now is showing up as a sky blue when it comes to the House. I'm not understanding that at all. Actually, it makes no sense. And Keith Ellison winning in a very narrow margin. Schultz conceding pretty early on, despite it being very close. It just reeks of more corruption. He's just like, screw it, I don't want to deal with it anymore. There were all these nasty, nasty ads, because he was losing. Mr. Old what's his name, Keith Ellison, who I cannot stand, was clearly losing. He was losing, and there was clear desperation from him and the ads, and they're like, oh, well, Schultz has never seen a courtroom. Carl Schultz has never been in a courtroom, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, and that what's-his-name's never lost. Well, that doesn't mean he's honest. There's a lot of crooked lawyers that don't lose, and they win in a very crooked way. There's nothing good about Keith Ellison. Tell me again, what's good about Keith Ellison? How did he handle the whole riot situation as like the top lawmaker in Minnesota, whatever? Give me a break. Give me a break. Keith Ellison and Tim Walz handled it like crap. They let the riots burn things down, tear things down, loot. They did nothing about it at all. And the frustration just kind of took over. It was unbelievably frustrating and pure evil, to be quite frank, what took place during that whole George Floyd riot situation. Like, they just let it happen. Like, oh, hey, we had it coming to us. Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much. Sadly to think, plenty of Democrat people, I'm sure mostly Democrats, around Lake Street and such, that lost their business probably went up and voted Democrat again. Idiots. Or maybe they didn't, and there was nothing but cheating going on. Quite possibly. But if they did vote Democrat again, I don't know what to tell you. That's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. It's kind of stupid, actually. It's kind of stupid. Yeah, I said it. I really did. It's odd. Apparently, Republicans so far have lost one seat when it comes to Democrats, governor, and the Democrats have gained one. That's just wonderful. Arizona leaning blue right now. That's another big one. Katie Hobbs and Kari Lake, and that's another one that reeks of, like, it just keeps getting a little bit further towards Hobbs, even though there are conservative areas that should be voting for Kari Lake, who is a 10 billion times better candidate than Katie Hobbs could ever hope to be governor of Arizona. But that just reeks of some dishonesty going on as well. How things keep coming up further and further for Katie Hobbs, despite the fact, again, they're in conservative areas of Arizona. So not sure what's going on there, and it's really, 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 really disheartening. Katie Hobbs owns basically a 29.5%, 29,500 vote lead, basically, at the moment. Insanely narrow margin there, 80% reporting, at least according to Google anyway. That can change. Florida is blood red and love it very much. 59.4% over Charlie Crist, who apparently also was a former Republican. I thought that name was insanely familiar. He was a former Republican. Interesting. So thank you, Charlie, for doing that, I guess. But Ron DeSantis crushing in Florida. And when you see tweets by people that talk about how we've spoken again, by the Democrats, liberal types on Twitter, because Twitter is filled with liberals, obviously, most of the time. Maybe not as much now. But how things are, how they're saying, we told 2 years ago, we told Trump we don't want him or his policies in America, and we told him again. We said we don't want Trump or Trump supporters, this and that, in America, da-da-da-da-da, like they're so smart. Tell that to Florida, where tons and tons and tons of Latinos voted for Ron DeSantis. Tons of African Americans voted for Ron DeSantis. And as he governed during the situation of COVID, he governed during the major hurricane that took place this last fall, summer, whatever it was, the end of summer, early fall, the major hurricane. I believe that would be early fall, basically. And obviously still hot and humid in Florida during that time, because Florida is mostly hot and humid about 10 months out of the year, with the exception of maybe January, February. Ron DeSantis, the way he handled that situation, and let's just call us MAGA Republicans as Joe Biden calls us so affectionately. Thank you, Joe, for the kind words. I know you're saying it with just the kindest meaning, right? You're just so kind. Okay, you get the idea. With Ron DeSantis and MAGA Republicans, as you like to say, running that state, during COVID-19 and all that, the masks or no masks and blah, 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 and lockdown and no lockdown. Ron DeSantis said you're free. Continue your business. You don't need to, we're not going to force you to do this. We're not going to force you to do that. And how he handled the whole hurricane situation in Florida and the way people of all shapes, sizes, colors, genders, whatever, voted for Ron DeSantis, voted for, believe it or not, Rubio. I don't think Rubio's the greatest, but, well, he's an ally more than an enemy, let's say that. And how that state was just red, red, red in such a big way, all the way through. That's right back at the Democrats, the angry left-wingers that try to tell you how, oh, this MAGA Republican stuff, we're telling you no, and we're showing you that we say no. Tell that to Florida. Tell that to Florida when they truly got to see how things were handled. See, in Minnesota, things were handled with Tim Walz, with the mask mandates, businesses shut down, tons of restaurants closing for good, the George Floyd riots. Lots of businesses suffered probably terribly, like I'll say a 50s Grill, which I love very much. Shout out to them. I wouldn't mind having them as some kind of sponsor on this show, but I doubt they'd even do that. But you never know. Say like a 50s Grill, a place like that. It's just a local-owned business, one store, one restaurant, and they had to suffer that whole frickin' time for months where people would come in and call takeout. And, I would give them a tip every single time. Every time me and my wife would have it, like, say, on a Sunday evening. It was usually on Sundays, correct? That's all it was. On Sundays for a while, off and on, we would order, takeout because that's all they had. You can't sit down in the restaurant at the time. And how much that hurt businesses like that. And they probably turn around and still vote Democrat because, hey, Tim Walz protected us. But then when you turn around the other direction, when Ron DeSantis said, run your business, this and that, run your business, take care of things, keep things going. You can still go to the beach. You don't need to live in fear. And gablooey. Ron DeSantis wins as strongly as he did. If people did not want what's happening, and if Ron DeSantis was so wrong about COVID-19 and this and that, and so wrong about this and so wrong about that, the MAGA Republican policies, if he was so wrong, Ron DeSantis would have been voted out big time. He would have been demolished, right? If he was terrible. But he wasn't. And let's not forget, Donald Trump actually had a record number of votes when they talk about how Joe Biden had the most votes of all time. That just tells you how much massive cheating there was. Because Donald Trump also had the most votes of all time. It's just that Biden had more. Where did that come from? And we're talking crazy numbers off the charts. This and that. So if Trump had the most votes of all time, and he won in places where Obama won. Obama, who's way more popular than Biden. Just take a look at how people ran to Obama and ignored Biden back in the spring. Do you remember that video that was floating on Twitter and Facebook where Biden had his hand out to shake somebody's hand and was like, where'd they go? They just all walked right past him to Obama. And I was joking around, well, that's me at work. Like, say, my two other guys, Jacob or Victor, everybody would run to them and ignore me. So that's kind of how that would work out, too. I'm not that popular. And neither is Biden. He's not. And if, again, Trump won in places where Obama won during the two Obama elections, you cannot tell me Biden blew Trump away with 81 million votes. You just cannot tell me that. You cannot. You just can't. He'd be lucky to have 60,000, and then Trump had the 71. Trump probably won by 10 million votes if things were all honest, but of course they weren't at the end of the day. Ohio nice and red. Mike DeWine won big time over Nan Whaley. That's cool. Non Whaley, whoever the heck that is. Kristi Noem demolished in South Dakota. That's cool. Great job there. So lots of good Republicans winning. New York, Kathy Hochul, I have no idea what's going on there. All the stupid nonsense she said, and she still wins. She wins like fairly decisively, divisively is more like it, over Lee Zeldin. The Legend of Zeldin was not meant to be, unfortunately, there. Greg Abbott beat Beto O'Rourke pretty badly, also by about 11%. In fact, it was 11%. And again, the Katie Hobbs-Kerry Lake situation, frustrating. Gavin Newsom wins in a blowout over Brian Dahl. Are you freaking kidding me? Gavin Newsom, Mr. Shut Down Everything in the history of the planet. So, again, there could have been cheating or just people are buying into the BS over there. But Ron DeSantis, again, I'm just going to say it again. People might be buying into the BS over there in Cali, but at the same time, when people see freedom, people see fairness, people see not living in fear, not having to live in fear, and how they lived their life and their business kept on. Why would Ron DeSantis win decisively over Charlie Crist? So again, it's an easy comeback you could have, to be quite honest. Again, very happy to have a possible change as Secretary of State. Thank God in heaven for that. Thank you, Lord. That is a huge, huge, huge victory for the Republicans in a big way. A part of me, if I sound a little kind of subdued, I'm very tired. Again, it was a fall cleanup day. This one is indoors. There is no campfire. There is no fire pit. There's no fire pit episode this time. Hopefully the next show is. Unfortunately, it was like 28 degrees and drizzling. So that's not good fire conditions, unfortunately. And kind of windy and stuff, too. So it's just kind of opposite of fire conditions. So it's kind of good to be indoors, even though it's boring and not as fun. But I guess the audio maybe is a little better, our show, so I would hope. With the M1 audio microphone right here, you can hear me rubbing it and making noise. So, whoop, this thing is funky. Apologize for that. But, I mean, you look at the maps, other than New Mexico and parts of Cali and all that, and like basically the left coast, as people call it, and the least coast as well. That's usually where all the blue hangs out. The very edge of the coast is where all the blue is, basically, particularly on the left coast. It literally is the left coast and all that. And for some reason, the bottom part of Texas as well, even though Texas is a very, 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 very red state. Again, a nice win over Beto O'Rourke for Greg Abbott. Thank you. Congratulations there, Mr. Greg Abbott. Frustrations everywhere, though. This should have been, if things were honest, if things were fair, and if the Republicans generated some better candidates, I think things would have gone in a very different direction. And who could forget the whole situation with Fetterman and Dr. Oz? I just do not understand that one. A lot of people look at it as Dr. Oz as a weak candidate. The person he primaried against was the better candidate. I would have voted for that person over Dr. Oz, absolutely. But once Dr. Oz is the candidate, it kind of is what it is. Fetterman has no business running anything, just like Joe Biden has no business running anything, just like Keith Ellis and Ilhan Omar have no business running anything. They have no business running anything. And we make these jokes about running a Dairy Queen or a McDonald's and this and that. I wouldn't want them near those places either. They would be tyrants to work for. I want nothing to do with that crap. You talk about control, you talk about authoritarian, this and that. That's the last thing I'd want anywhere near me. Like, stay away from me. I don't know you. Get away. Get away from me. I don't care who you are and who you think you are. Go away. That's about the response I'd have. Fire me if you will. I'm not voting for you. I'm not working for a tyrant, evil piece of crap like those people who don't give two blanks about this country, to be quite fair. There will be no mailbag because there was no updates, no updated mailbag, this and that. We have any rants and say, like, you might as well go to the Joe Biden Twitter, because it seems like every now and then, every couple of minutes, basically, he's going to say something angry and divisive. We appreciate all the kind words. Oh, look at this. Here we go. This is rich. Joe Biden, yep. Oh, I want to thank the young people of this nation who voted in historic numbers. Again, just as you did 2 years ago, you voted to continue addressing the climate crisis. Oh, so important. The climate crisis. Tell that to my hands, tell that to my feet, tell that to my face today, working out in mid-20s temperatures with wind. Global warming, huh? Gun violence? Gun violence because good people don't have guns and bad people do? You schmuck. Your personal rights and freedoms and student debt relief. Oh, yeah, let's just rob hardworking Americans to pay off students that probably don't even give a crap about their degree. They're just there because they're there. I don't want to pay for their debt. Maybe they went to a class they didn't even want. Why do I have to pay for that? It's crazy and sad to imagine. Thank you for making your voices heard, he says. And it's just personal freedoms and all that. Yeah, what, to go get bleeped and get pregnant and all that? It's just, I'm sorry, but I can't handle the thought process of these people. I cannot relate to these people. Not on any day. I can't do it. I can't. Yeah, so disgusting. Some of the stuff I read what he says and all that. Yep, yesterday was a good day for democracy and a good day for America. How about the constitutional republic, not democracy? Our democracy has been tested in recent years, but with their votes, the American people have spoken and proven once again you're full of crap. I mean, democracy is who we are. No, constitutional republic is who we are. Constitutional republic is who we are. And then right above here, right below, there's some idiot called Alien. I'll never understand how Republicans can just allow Trump to be a free man. I feel like I feel like there has to be pools, Republicans in the USA that won't allow this, or politicians that are ready to put him behind bars. Man, it seems so silly. Would love opinions on this. My opinion is, how is Hunter Biden not behind bars? How is Nancy Pelosi not behind bars? Maxine Waters, all the crooked crap they did with the banks and all that. Maxine Waters, her husband runs a bank, and the unbelievable crooked behavior that's been going on there forever. Joe Biden again. How are Joe and Hunter Biden not behind bars for the corruption with Ukraine years ago? I mean, there is so much evidence, overwhelming, going against those two. So I could easily come back at you, Alien. Behind bars for what? Behind bars for what? For having nothing to do with January 6th? I mean, what did he do on January 6th? Nothing. So, I mean, I still don't understand that and how they come up with such BS. It's beyond me. Oh, I will vote. Yeah, I'm sure you will for the wrong people. Let's leave it at that. I don't know. I can only read so much. I'm going to go on huge rants and get more and more frustrated and cursing and such. So, again, the mailbag is empty. Right now, I want to honor the veterans that are still living, the veterans going all the way back to the Revolutionary War, even the soldiers that protected the Pilgrims, going way back 400 years ago. But, of course, again, the Revolutionary War, the veterans that fought for this country, that protected this country, and that did not give up in dire situations against a very powerful empire with the United Kingdom. Back then, they just simply called it England. Basically, England, very, very powerful empire of England, basically, is what it was at the time. King George and all them. George versus George, right? George Washington versus King George. And all of that. And all how they all risked their lives. They lost their lives. Bunker Hill, obviously, retaking Trenton, taking Trenton back, taking our country back, just like we'd like to do now from this communist establishment that is literally trying to take over this country. It's so plain as day that it's a communist socialist regime and communist socialist points of view, and we're seeing it at work every day with leadership at work where they want everybody to be all equal when we're not all equal. Some people work hard, some people don't. I do not want to hear that, we're all just a team together, this and that. We are not all 100% equal and together. We do not all deserve the exact same reward, the exact same, we don't. It's just plain and simple. I'm not gonna be brought down by somebody that doesn't want to work, and I'm not gonna be put on the same level as somebody that doesn't want to work. Things like that. So, that's based. And now I'm going into another rant, and I apologize, as I was trying to talk about the Revolutionary War veterans who took the country back. With the invasion of Trenton, New Jersey on Christmas Day, 1776. It was an amazing turn of events for the Revolutionary War, where George Washington came through in the clutch. It's how he wasn't the greatest war planner ever or anything, but he came through in the clutch when it matters most. And that's what I'd like to say. I'm the same way. I come through in the clutch. I'd like to believe I'm the same way. And some of the best leaders are that way. Or none of us are perfect. You come through in the clutch when it matters most. I'm not trying to compare myself to George Washington or any great athlete or anything, but it is important to come through when it matters most. The big moment. It was a turning point for this country. And we thank those veterans that did that. We thank the we thank and respect all the men that fought in the Civil War. The war was not about slavery until later on, where Lincoln made it more about slavery later on, which is, fine. I'm glad that this country does not have slaves. I think that's a terrible mistake. We, of course, we're not the first country to have them, but ultimately, again, honoring the men, so many men, how so many U.S. soldiers on both sides died in that war, and how that war is by far the leader in American soldiers lost in a single war, including World Wars I and II, which is really crazy, but because every single death was an American death. Every single man that died in that war counts as an American death, because it's, the South and the North. Quite simple, but all those men that fought, again, freed the slaves, and also calmed things down and made amends years later. And there's a famous video in the 1920s, like I believe it was 1920, where they were old men, kind of like a Vietnam veteran would look today, maybe long hair, just old whitish gray hair, were shaking hands on both sides of that Gettysburg battle. Pretty cool how it's like, here's all the Confederates and here's all the Union Army, and they're shaking hands. And that was really cool in 1920. That was, a 60-year anniversary or so of that Gettysburg, the Battle of Gettysburg. So pretty cool how that happened. But all the respect in the world to those men, all the respect in the world to people that fought in World War I. America wasn't as involved in that war, but still involved. World War II, obviously, so many lives lost, but fought to protect this country against Japan, and of course originally against Russia and Germany, but then Germany more so later on, as Germany betrayed Russia, of course, and that was Hitler's biggest mistake in that war. That's what cost him dearly, betraying Russia because he wanted to have it all for himself. Pretty stupid, and that's what happens. That's what happens. You get greedy and you blow it. So that was a terrible mistake, but good for us all. Good for us all, right? At the end of the day, men that fought in the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the first Iraq War. Mark Carlson fought in the first Iraq War in the early 90s. Biggest respect ever. Huge respect to Mark Carlson, as you've heard his name many times on this show. I'd like to hear more and more from veterans. I'd like to meet you, even if it's just on Facebook and Twitter and such. I'd love to meet you. I really would. And I respect you so much, and I really appreciate everything you've done for us. As we know, in the from Vietnam, even Korean War, they're probably in their 90s if they're still living. But obviously, World War, there's a few left. Not that many anymore, unfortunately. That generation's almost at the end now. They're around 100 years of age. Of course, battles like the Battle of Midway, that was 82 years ago already. So that's why, unfortunately, a lot of them are dying off now. No, not 82 years ago, 80 years ago, 1942. I apologize, it wasn't 1940, 1942. So 80 years ago when that took place, the Battle of Midway, which was also a turning point in World War II, in the Pacific campaign anyway, as Midway is just a small little island in the center of the Pacific Ocean. And whoever took Midway between Japan and the United States would have the advantage. It's that simple. You gain the center, you now have the advantage. It was a turning point in World War II when it came to the Japan and U.S. Campaign, the war in World War II, basically. So that was a big thing. Normandy, obviously, there was a big thing. Obviously, that's a big anniversary as well. Huge respect to all the men and women involved in that war. And that battle, pardon me, in the Europe campaign over there as well. Major big thing. Major respect to all of you. Happy birthday to the Marines as well. 257 years, as that started off in 76. Way back. 75, pardon me, 1775, before 76. Before the Revolutionary War, the Marines had their birthday yesterday. Huge respect there. So, pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed, Marines. The toughest sons of guns there are. Huge respect there. Jim Hammond, who hosts the Final Hour podcast, I think he was in Iraq, but you never hear about it. You never hear about it, Jim Hammond, though. He's in that age group. Graduated in the late 80s, or the mid 80s actually. So very big possibility he was in the war. He never talked about it. But yep, host of the Final Hour podcast, and of course one of the pastors of the Living Word, and the son of Matt Hammond, who was a Vietnam Air Force veteran. Pretty cool, pretty impressive. Air Force, that's about as big of a deal as it gets. Even though I respect every single Army veteran there is, anywhere from say, like a private just getting started, or a cadet in the Navy, to a petty officer, to an admiral, wherever the heck you're going to, from a petty officer all the way up to an admiral, this and that. I respect every one of you so much. It'd be quite an honor. I'd love to hear from Navy veterans, Marines, Army. I would love to hear from you. Love to hear from you. So, all the respect in the world, and to everybody that lost their life during any of the wars, revolutionary, all the way up to anything in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, who knows? Who knows? And anything that took place again, Iraq too, which started in 2003, Afghanistan 2003. Actually, Afghanistan was 2001. That was like right away after 9/11. So all the big respect to everybody. I'm going to give you all a moment of silence. God bless the United States and our armed forces. Thank you, thank you, thank you. With that said, happy Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day. We will have another show sometime fairly soon, I'm sure. More and more updates, maybe with what's going on in the world of politics and voting and elections and scams and all that crap. Hopefully better news. Hopefully a better Speaker of the House than Kevin McCarthy, and way the heck better than Nancy Pelosi, which is a great thing. Wishing all of you again a happy Veterans Day. Hopefully we'll be on by Thanksgiving Day or before, and we'll try to keep up with things. Hopefully I don't get another weird, rough-looking guy at a store trashing Thanksgiving, saying that it's just backstabbing the Native Americans Day, which is not what happened. No, the Pilgrims did not backstab the Native Americans. Maybe unfortunately some of their descendants did, but the actual Pilgrims? Come on, man. And unfortunately, again, there's bad people in every group there is. No matter who it is, there's always going to be some bad eggs. And it's unfortunate. You wish there weren't, but all we can do about that is pray. Pray for our family members, pray for our friends, pray for our enemies. That maybe that things will, that the evil forces will not influence them in a negative way to do bad things, to treat people unfairly and in an evil way. With that said, again, have a wonderful couple of days here. Hopefully we'll be back sooner than later. And until then, God bless the United States of America.